everybody. It's Amanda Rad for another episode of the Heart of Rural America podcast. I've got two guys in the hot seat today. I said that last time you were on the show, Chris Earl. Apparently, I want to put the flame to the fire when you get on the show. But we have two great guests today, and it's going to be a informative, rowdy, everything in between discussion. So Aaron DuVall of Capital Angus and Texas Beefhouse, alongside Chris Earl of CK6 Consulting. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. Great to be here, Amanda. Thanks.
Well, it's an exciting time. It's fall, and we're gearing up for bull sale season. And as I understand it, you guys have a big event coming up here in November. Now, the whole point of this podcast is to highlight good people across this country who are doing innovative things in agriculture to become price makers instead of price takers, and to truly add value back to their operations. And I know you're a family operation. And so maybe just to start the show, kick things off, tell us a little bit about Capital Angus and the family history and what you guys all do.
Yeah, we started this when we moved back to Tyler about 25 years ago. And we started off just small and got into a registered operation, and then also had a beef operation where we mainly sold on halves and wholes. And then as we grew, we saw that the demand for our beef operation was going to change so that we could sell the beef by the piece and not just in the large, volumes of half and wholes, because just the market was very small for people that had big freezers that could accommodate a whole beef or a half beef. So we made a transition to Texas Beefhouse and kind of started to expand to where we now ship, all over the United States, and we have local markets here in Tyler that we supply. But it's really a vision that we started, that they're kind of two businesses that are dovetailed into one. There's the beef business, which is the Texas Beefhouse, and the engine that runs that is our Angus business, Capital Angus. And so I just think that, as you look at the business model of ranchers and our end product is beef, what really is a huge challenge for us is trying to get the value that we have in the animal and retain it as the farmer, as the rancher. And so that's kind of the motive and the idea behind our model, is to take our beef from, cradle to the grave. So we take it from the beginning, the calf's born here, and then the calf is harvested here, and then we have a USDA butcher that processes our beef, and then it's marketed out. Just depends on whether we ship it or we sell it locally. We do farmers market, just anything we can to get our beef in front of people. And it's admittedly a slow process. I mean, we've been doing this for 10 years now and are really just starting to get traction. And maybe we just don't know what we're doing with our advertising, but it's a word of mouth kind of growth. And it's a sound growth, a very predictable growth, but it has allowed us to capture, I think, the part of the market that ranchers are going to have to tap into, to where we take the middleman out of the equation and we keep the profits that are going to the middleman.
Well, this tees up the perfect question for Chris Earl, talking about how the beef industry is held captive by four major packers that control 85% of the beef industry. Chris, what have you seen as far as the challenges today's cattleman and woman faces, and as far as retaining that value and getting paid for what they do? And what opportunities do you see, even in the midst of kind of corruption and a monopoly and just corporate greed that really is kind of bleeding out a lot of producers as well?
Well, Amanda, you jump in a truck and you come to White House, Texas, because a lot of these things you can talk about, right? We all know the factors that affect the beef business, and it's a monopolization, through corporations that have cozy relationships with the rule forming people, which is government. And then, so what you try and do is you try and incentivize people to go out to the market, trust the market, and say, here's what we're doing. This is what we think it's worth, or let's price discover what it's worth. And that's what's happening here in White House, Texas. Mm-hmm. I mean, the DuVall set down this path. There's not one challenge you can put in front of the DuValls that they've ever said no to us on. And, this is a manifestation of, let's fix this, right? I want what we want what we deserve that we're doing. That is the American way. It's a great Texas way too. Is that, you know, they get into something and they want to work hard, but at the end of the day, they want a great product and they want to be paid for it. And I think so. When you come here, you see a premium product that is both designed through their Angus program, but is also sold to the marketplace. And what's coming is, you know, in the November sale, for the first time I think that I can ever remember in the country, we're gonna price discover, you know, primal cuts and cuts of beef through an auction process that will be conjoined with their Angus production sale. It's one of those things people always ask, what is, you know, where are the solutions? We're sitting in the solution here. This is where the auction is going to take place. We're going to see what the market can bear, you know, and that is all about being profitable and setting your price. And I think Aaron and I talked about it today, is that, you know, we need to shift from price takers, and you have a great term, to price makers. Mm-hmm. And price making is going to happen here in November. And that's what we also ask them to do in their Angus product, is that let's set the price, let's set the market. And I think so. As you look to the challenges going forward, independent minds like my friend Aaron and his family that venture into this is what the free market was created for. This is the solution. The solution is, you know what, you major four, there's no political will to break you up. Therefore, we're going to go do what we think we need to do. That is the solution. The more people we can get themselves to get to that mindset and do these things, the better the market will be.
Well, that's a hard mindset to arrive to. I've had many cattle producers yell at me for talking about that, because I say, you talk about the packers and the corruption. You see what Congress is doing. They're not in any hurry to fix anything for the American cattleman. In fact, they've largely been a part of making a lot of the challenges that we face in the cattle industry. So our options are go broke or bleed red every year, or say, hey, I'm not going to work with these corporate goons that are criminals in their own countries. And instead, I'm going to step outside of that system. I'm going to capture that value, because I'm tired of seeing the packer year after year making mega profits while I'm struggling back here doing all the work for 95% of that beef animal's life. So Aaron, I guess my question to you, because like I said, I get a lot of pushback when I talk to guys about, hey, take your product all the way to the consumer, to the retail end. And they say, well, it's, you know, I'm a cowboy. I like raising cattle. I don't really like dealing with people, and slinging steaks one at a time is really tough. How was that transition for you guys getting into the beef space and working with restaurants and families and people from town?
Yeah, I think you have to kind of, first of all, size up your market where you live. And, you know, some people live in rural areas where they don't have access to a market. You know, we live in a more urban area. I mean, we're still rural Texas, but we're close to Dallas and Houston and Austin and the places we can ship beef to fairly easily. And Tyler itself is over 100,000 people. So one of the advantages of where we ranch is that we have access to a market that, you know, when I sell bulls to a couple hundred. And when I sell beef, I sell 1,000 people. So my consumer, and, you know, if you can get in that market, it's a very stable market in the sense of demand, supply and demand. But it's a whole nother business in the sense of, you know, grazing beef is, you know, what all ranchers are born and bred to do, but harvesting beef and marketing beef and getting into the beef market, it has been a challenge for us as well. But I think, you know, the most important thing about our beef product is that it's a quality product. You can't fudge quality. And if you have quality beef, and Angus bring the most quality, I believe, to any breed, as far as when it comes down to set the table and have an eating experience. You know, we believe we're on the right track with our product. But it takes a long time to build a market. So there's no shortcuts. I wish, you know, we could just come out in a year or two and have advertising and everybody find us. But also, we do not target restaurants at this point. You know, we're going to start to broaden our scope and target more the restaurants and steakhouses and things like that. But we've really targeted the homeowner, the family. And we provide beef to the local markets, And so I think you can't expect it to just happen overnight, because it's not, but it's steady growth. And I believe in the American way. I believe in the entrepreneurial spirit and the rule of supply and demand. If there's a demand out there, then I want to be the one that supplies them, and I think there's always going to be a demand for good beef. And I think it's time that the rancher steps up and is able to supply that to the market without us taking it on the chin by the middle guys.
Absolutely. And that, before we talk about the genetics that make this great beef eating experience possible, Chris, let's talk about the concept of taking beef to auction. I mean, this is going to raise some eyebrows. People are going to say, what are they doing? This is crazy. So tell me a little bit about the vision behind it, and who you're hoping is kind of watching online or in the stands sale day bidding on this beef.
Well, just a little bit like you, Amanda, we get, as you open up and you start voicing an opinion to the public, you get a lot of feedback, good and bad, right? Mm-hmm. And one of my feedbacks was I get a lot of restaurateurs that send me emails or call or whatever, and having a meat company myself back in Illinois back in the day, you realize a lot of these, because the monopolization also goes to the delivery of the product from the major four, mm-hmm. is that, a lot of these places, especially maybe a little bit more, weren't getting their orders filled. They might order this, 100% of their order, truck comes in, they get 25 to 50% of their order. Mm-hmm. So then you couple that with what I see in my everyday life, and that is because of parameters, that prime was becoming very scarce. And it's becoming more scarce as days on feed are less, as more Mexican cattle come across the border. A lot of this stuff is coming into America to fulfill consumption, not fill the high-end steak need. Mm-hmm. So as I look at my last 10 or 15 years, as you watch the beef scenario, there's one market that has not been affected, and that is the high-end steak market. Mm-hmm. As long as I can remember, the steakhouses are full. People go there. The top end of the American people have become extremely wealthy, which leads to the final piece that really got me thinking was, and I've turned into one of these people, not that I'm a wealthy guy, but when I go eat a steak, because I'm getting to this point in my life, I don't care if it's $40, Amanda, or $100. Mm-hmm. I want a good experience for that ribeye or whatever I get. That's $60 difference on the margin, 60. Mm-hmm. So you tell me that if a guy can't get his product, right, and he knows he can price it between 40 and 100 and still fulfill the demand like Aaron was speaking about, he is going to go find that product no matter where it is. Most guys, especially that cut their own primals, cut their own steaks, I love these guys that are still across the country, they want the primals. They'll cut their steak. They just need to get them. Maybe they got to pay $2 more. Maybe they got to pay $4 more. Maybe they got to pay $10 more. But if they've still got that margin by which it is a profitable experience, then I wanted to fulfill the supply and demand through coming to the market with a high-end product. I pitch it, and there's one guy, right? The doctor, one of my good friends, the doctor that, first time he said it, I want it to be us.
Awesome. We always talk about.
That's what I think for 2 or 3 years. So
I think this is a novel idea. It's going to be kind of the maiden voyage of this model, but we will adapt to it. This has traction and takes off, and we can find some people that we can supply. Then we will create a new model. And I think that's what the American way is. It's creating a better mousetrap. Right now our mousetrap is jacked up, and we need a better mousetrap. So who's better to do it than the American farmer and the American rancher? Because we're the ones putting all the blood, sweat, and tears into this product. We should capture the benefit of it, and there's no reason in our market that we can't come up with a better model. I mean, everything's becoming so high tech and accessibility, and people all across the United States can access a sale online. Things get shipped every day without it being under the monopoly of a certain group. So we can find ways around those obstacles, but it just we have to have the belief that we can create a product that's going to be in demand, and that we can bring that product to market. And we have to find our place at the table to bring it to market, and that's kind of what this new beginning is with Chris and this auction is to see if we can't find access to the market for the ranching world, you know?
Well, and it's interesting to me because the media tells us every day the cow is destroying the planet. The politicians are convinced that they can regulate us out of business. These celebrities and influencers like to think that we're not going to be eating beef at all in the future. We're going to be eating bugs and their fake meat coming out of the little labs. And yet the American people say, no, we really like beef. And Chris and I talk about this quite often, but the best thing that the American cattle rancher has is leverage. You have the land, you have the cattle, and you have the supply. But we often give up that third piece, which is the supply, the product that is so beloved here and around the world. And so I'm just very excited for the sale to come. So tell us a little bit about November 11th, sale day. You guys are going to sell the beef first, right? So kind of what's the format? How's it going to look? And what can people expect?
We're still bringing the format together, but it's going to be in the middle part of the day. So the beef part will sell first. So we're right in a sale barn, and they have cooler space, huge amount of cooler space right in their sale barn. We got to bring kind of the logistics of marketing Angus and marketing beef on the same day, but we kind of sense maybe a group of people that are here locally, people for the beef, with hopefully a very large online presence. So we kind of maybe want to move them in early in the day and then move the purebred people, commercial people in later in the day. You know, the vision is really that we're going to have to look, at the end of the day on an auction process, people make the buy, the process by which it's delivered, the process by which it's consistent, all this stuff has to be seamless. This is the challenge of putting it in front of an auction. So the product is going to be ready. I mean, nobody wants to bid on something that looks like they're buying it. They want to actually bid on what they're going to get. Yeah. So those steaks, those primals, those things are going to have to be displayed. This is your product. This is not a plastic picture of a steak, right? This is your product. And that's part of what you and I talk about. And that's property rights. That's everything. That's mine, right? I purchased that. That's mine. So we have to make sure that's all laid out and all constructed and think that it's fairly quickly moving, and that we have the process by which it's going to be delivered immediately. And we will have all those things in place prior to that. And then that moves us into the second part of the day, which is really the price discovery on purebred Angus bulls. Be the largest bull sale we've ever had here. Purebred Angus females be the largest group of females we've ever offered, and that's because this program is growing very quickly, leaps and bounds. They've adjusted their management systems to create high-end animals in volume, and it's impressive to see. So therefore, more high-end animals are accessible to sale. Couple that with what we think we're going to get a lot of attention from the beef side and the Texas Beefhouse side. Be a lot of eyes on this program. So we want to make sure we fulfill expectations and that we've done everything we can, from a consulting side and a conceptual side, that the DuValls feel very comfortable about how the day will flow and how it'll all go down. So,
well, it's primed to be a great day, pun intended on the prime part. Aaron, tell me a little bit about just your breeding philosophy, the genetics, or some of the foundation females that have kind of built the program to what it is today.
Yeah, I think one of the biggest challenges in the ranching business for young ranchers like our outfit. We're a first generation rancher as far as registered Angus. And so me and my son, Tyler, he's 35 years old. He's our ranch manager. We kind of picked this up from the beginning. We didn't own any land, any cows, anything. So we kind of had to put this all together from the ground up. It just takes time. That's the only reason I say that is it just takes a lot of time to do that. But you have to grow this process. But in the end, you just have to remember that quality is what's going to keep you here. At the end of the day. And I met Chris over 10 years ago, and Chris has been just an intricate part of Capital Angus, and now kind of working his way into our relationship with Texas Beefhouse. But without, quality animals that really kind of become the foundation of what your program is, you keep hitting the restart button. We just can't afford to do that. The You can't ever get a day back. You can't ever get a breeding season back. So it takes a lot of energy and thought to go into your breeding, because your breeding is going to produce your product, and then that's your your next generation's based off that. So it is so important to the question you asked. Is your foundational cows are the ones that you just you can't go wrong on, and really it's a story I'll tell on myself. But we owned a herd of registered Angus cows when I met Chris, and I met him up in Dallas, Fort Worth, and I could really tell that this guy was had his pulse on the industry and knew a lot about the Angus breed specifically. Mm-hmm. And so we brought him back home and showed him the ranch and the cows, and of course he'd already seen some of our bulls we were selling. And I said, Chris, so just give it to me straight. I want to know what I'm going to do to make my program better. And because I'm a doctor, so I'm not pretending to be an Angus specialist, but you are. So tell me what to do. He said, sell everything you got, and we're starting over. So I fired him that day, but I hired him back that night. But
I can feel your pain. I am going through this personal at the moment.
That's the kind of start we had. So we started over, and we had commercial cattle. We went out and bought the highest dollar cow in the next sale, and the next one, and the next one, and that's how we put together our foundation females. And they all looked the part, and they all were performance cattle, and we still own all their offspring today. And so every cow that Chris has put us on that we could afford, we're glad we got her, and we still are to this day. We try to go around and pick cattle that are going to be foundational cattle for the next generations to go, and they're based off their phenotype. But our vision is easy to see because it's tied in to the beef business. Mm-hmm. They have to marble. At the end of the day, we raise cattle to eat. And so I've always focused on the marbling aspect, and there's many more aspects to the animal that we focus on, but we don't lose sight of that no matter how fast they grow or how good they produce milk, you got to be able to eat them, and it has to be a very good quality piece of meat. So that trumps about everything we do. Is at the end of the day, we raise our beef to eat, and we don't lose sight of that, And so we are now trying to kind of shore up the weak spots in our cattle where we maybe didn't look at another EPD in the past. We're paying a lot more attention to those and trying to kind of fill in those holes like all the ranchers do. We're chasing genetics while remaining true to phenotype. But I think it's hard to stay on a vision, and our vision is to raise good marbling cattle that pay when you sell them. Whether it's you sell them by the piece or you sell them to a rancher who's going to put them on their cows. They have to produce an end product that's going to be sourced back to them, and then that rancher is going to benefit from it. Mm-hmm. And so they have to be heavy cattle, and they have to be low maintenance cattle, but they have to marble. And so we will not lose track of that part of our vision, that these cattle have to be high marbling cattle.
I love the vision, and I love just that focus on the leading genetics that lead to that ultimate great beef eating experience. And these are cattle that work in any environment too. And it all kind of comes together. And that's what's so cool about Capital Angus and Texas Beefhouse. But you brought up two things, and I'd like Chris to comment on this because he seems to be very good at coaching people into kind of getting their operations where they need to be to really capture that value. You mentioned, number one, that you're a first generation rancher. And it's interesting because I've gotten a lot of feedback for podcast requests for guests of, hey, the beef industry from the outside looking in looks like a good old boys club where you had to be born into it and have multiple generations that brought you to this space. Otherwise, it's impossible. And then the second thing that you said was you talked about changing direction. So often in agriculture, we get in this rut of like, this is how we've always done it. We can't redirect. And Chris, with what you do with CK6 Consulting, you kind of blow those two concepts up and rewrite the rules. And so just for the listeners, maybe it's a young person thinking about getting into the cattle business or a family operation who's kind of hit a dead end of it's not working, it's not paying the bills. Just what would be your best advice for those folks?
Well, I think every advice on any business, and I'll speak specifically to the Angus or cattle business, you have to love it. I mean, you have to be passionate about it. And one way I think people really gauge, if I find this is not a business you want to come to and think you're going to put your 8 hours in. It's not.
No.
This is a business where this is who you are. I mean, this is how you become profitable, is when your life becomes, the cattleman part of you becomes who you are, because you're going to need that. There's going to be times where just because it's a job, you won't want to do it. There's going to be times that you have to do it because this is who you are. And I think that, so as you come into it, I think that's a must. I think it's a must in the business. Secondly is you have to come in this thing on your toes. And I think that's where we really need to speak differently and really approach the business differently from agriculture. Is we mentioned in the beginning of the podcast, become somebody that you're going to want to get to a position of authority and be an expert in what you do, not a price taker, not somebody that's going to listen to your feed salesman tell you how to feed them. And that's one thing Tyler's not here with us today, but this is one thing this young man's become very good at, is that he has become an expert in all things of cattle production. He no longer will listen to the service guy that's trying to sell you something on what to do. He will figure this out. He will judge his results on the ranches, and he will make a determination that way. And I think that's where we need to get to as part of agriculture. If you get that part, this upside in cattle business, the upside in rural America, I've never seen it greater. I've never seen where there was more opportunity for somebody that can be aggressive, work hard, but also is, I want to say, adverse to risk, but risk is not something that's going to back them down. Matter of fact, risk is probably something that's going to get them up in the morning and get after it, because the opportunity out there to do this right now has never been greater. The tools are better that we can use. Aaron didn't speak, but Aaron's a great user of the tools. He didn't mention Cavanese. I mean, we've focused very hard on Cavanese here. We also, if the animal is not conformational wise, we will move to the next one. They're now, where I was one of kind of the leader of that when we started, they now are the leaders of that, which I really try and encourage all my clients, and especially here at Capital, is have an opinion. Tell me what you like. Tell me what you don't like. And then we will adjust from that. So that's all part of branding. And I think Capital Angus is moving towards branding. So when you see the animal, and I hope people see that in the sale this year, when you see these bulls, when you see the females, and I know so even more as we're sitting here today, as we go in the replacement pen, you're starting to see the selection pressures that are defining what they want their brand to be. And that's exciting for me, because that makes me, we're moving to the next level. And I think if you can bring all those things to this business does not have an upside does not have a ceiling in the future. And I think that's exciting. If you're going to do this way of life, and we're going to get up and we're going to do this and work this hard, and maybe have to miss some ball games, or maybe have to miss, like Tyler, we forced him to go to his one of his kids' birthday parties today. He was ready to miss it for the cattle business. And I'm saying, and I'm that's going to have to happen if you're going to do this way of life. Some of those things are going to have to be missed, but the upside of what will come because of that will be greater, will be better. And I think those things, as you look for what you want in the American way, for what you want for your life, Aaron has also not mentioned, very faithful guy. This is one of our best connections, is we're both faithful people. We believe in this way of life. He's got grandkids. I got grandkids. You've got young kids. In the sustaining of America and what this means for these kids, and how to work hard, how to be responsible for what they do, how the big thing is be responsible for the result. A bad result is not a bad thing. A bad result is a great learning process by which you can learn in the cattle. We just got done talking today. The cattle business is a function of making adjustments as you go. And that is a great thing, because it adds to humility, adds to all the things that God wants for you in your life, is that he just wants you to get back up and get at it. And I think that's ranching. And that's one thing I think Aaron and I hold most similar between us. So, but yeah, so I think look, I've never been more excited sitting here in 2023. I'm 56 years old and been in this thing 33 years, Amanda. The cattle business right now is exciting, So
it is. And I think you hit the nail on the head of what it really is all about is family and raising kids that have strong faith. And I can't think of a better way to raise the next generation than on the land, being stewards of these animals, getting to see the full circle of life come to fruition and putting in a hard day's work. And when things go wrong, having a faith in a higher power in God, it makes it all make sense. It makes it all worthwhile.
Ties
It's
it all together.
I think so. And so, Aaron, let's talk a little bit about the family. I've gotten to meet Tyler. We got to go talk to some Chicago beef eaters about the big auction ahead, which was probably like top 10 experiences of 2023. But tell me about the family. Who's all involved, and what does family mean to you? And maybe speak a little on your faith too.
Yeah, I really appreciate Chris and his value system, because it's not common outside of ranching, and I'm a physician, so I'm in a different, I have a different walk and a different, world that's different than ranching. So I get some different perspectives, but to have where people have the same value system. And I tell you, you want to be able to raise your kids up in the value system that you establish, and in the ranching and farming parts of the world, we still are able to do that. And those are still prized and valued, I tell you, this country is going to be in a lot of trouble if we can't reverse what we're teaching our kids as far as work ethics. We're raising a generation of people who do not know how to work and do not value work and don't understand why they should work, And so one of the interesting things just recently, I'll tell you about this, how it kind of relates to this. We've hired some immigrants from South Africa, and we've had other ranchers, ranch hands on the farm, locals, and just around this area. There's a different work ethic from these gentlemen that come from another country. They want to work 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. We have to tell them to stop, and that's how it was when I was a kid. That's how it was when I was a young man. You showed up, and they told you when to go home, and you were glad you had the job. And now it's like this entitlement generation where no one is expected to work, or their first job is, when they get out of college, and they expect it to be six figures, and they never had a job in their life, And so that's what we're up against as far as culture. And so how do you break that? Is that you teach your kids how to work from day one, and you put them in an environment where they can work and they have the opportunity to work, and you teach them to work. Then you develop this value system that I think has been here since the beginning of time, that we're to function as a family, we're to function as a unit. And when the family unit's strong, everything's strong in our country. When the family unit's weak, everything's weak in our country, because all that family unit goes back to God, goes back to our belief system, goes back to our values, And we're a pretty tight-knit family. Tyler's is our ranch manager, and he has a wife, Samantha Victoria, and they have 4 children, and they're busy on the ranch all the time and very busy in the beef business. Anything that needs to be done, these are the shoulders that are against the plow doing it, And my wife, we've been married 40 years this past summer.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and she's the kind of the heart and soul of the whole family and the glue that keeps us together. And she watches all the grandkids. So between her and the other grandmas, that's the daycare. The kids spend all the time with their grandparents, and when their parents are not there. So that's a blessing to us. That's not always possible, but for us it is, and it's valued, And then we have my daughter. She lives here in the East Texas area, and my wife gets to watch her 10-month-old daughter as well. And her husband works in a similar business, the medical business that I'm part of. And so we work as a tight family unit. The whole family does. And so I tell you, the best employees are the ones I've raised, and that makes me proud, because they got it right. They got the work ethics down, and they don't get paid a whole lot, and so you have to cut this part out probably, but
it's real life.
They get paid, for the quality of life they have with their family, and they pay their bills, but they have different expectations, I think, than people their age across the country, and I think that you have to value certain things, and then you trade certain things for those values, right? We're always trading time for money and money for time. And so, it's a trade-off, but it's what you put your values on. And I feel like we're just really blessed to have the family unit we have and have the business that we're beginning, because we think that there's no ceiling on this. If we can tap into the market and find our way into the market, and it's real vogue now to sell locally and to buy locally and to eat locally. And so we play right into that because we're local, and this is where we're kind of putting our roots down with our beef business, and we're getting the most traction. People want to know who's raising their cattle, what's going into them, and is it full of hormones and antibiotics or whatever or not, and so it makes a lot of difference to our clientele and to our customers. And so we're accelerating off that. And we try to bring a very wholesome product to the market that is very good to eat, and as it brings a lot of excitement, I think, to our business when you really are founded on the qualities of marbling, tenderness, and all these kind of things that Chris has really emphasized in the cattle that we've bought. And just for instance, we're part owners in the Deadwood Bull genetics, and that bull's been a game changer. He's top 1% marbling, and he's top 1% tenderness. Not everybody looks at that, but people that are making beef look at that, and
absolutely.
Our offspring that are coming out of that bull, we're selling in our sale, and we're keeping some of the females and trying to propagate those genetics, because those are genetics that change your program, and they change it, in ways that it takes, I think, generations to try to get to this point. You can change them faster.
Well, let's talk about the sale. Chris, can you share the details of when it is, where folks can watch online, and maybe some of the exciting lots or featured genetics that maybe folks should pay attention to?
So the sale is November 11th, and it'll be right here in White House, Texas. We referenced it a little bit. It'll be an exciting day. I mean, I'm an Angus guy, so look, I love the beef side, but I'm focused on their genetics. And I think, as you go through their program and you spend a lot of time with it, it's our best set of bulls for sure. And, we'll have probably in that 75 to 80 bull range, probably when the time gets here. And they're tremendous. They're older bulls, so they're grown out in a great management system. What's great about older bulls is you can see the full expression of the genetics. You've got all the data there, you've got all the calculations, you got all the predictions, but there's nothing better than seeing an 18 to 24-month-old bull. Everything is there for you to see. We're going to have a pile of them. And as you go through the bulls, you're going to notice, some similar things. You're going to notice that the CEDs, the cavities is there. You want that, as ranches really struggle to get the labor, if they have one problem, it's a problem, so a lot of these guys are really focused on, being able to find cattle that, have predictions of not having heavier calves. They've done a great job of that here. As you see replacements start to get replaced to try to replenish the cow herd across the country, heifer bulls are going to be needed. Heifer bulls that can cover big country. Those are older bulls, so you're going to find those here. Secondly, we've upped the numbers here on the ranch. I mean, it's just a tremendous amount of cattle on the ranch right now, which has left us the ability to sell the females. So we're going to have a lot of females, from bred heifers to past donors. Most of them are going to have heifer calves in them. Your banker's going to love you if you buy them, because, it's two equities on one purchase price, so, that is, as we go into a market, there's nothing better than when you come 2024 and one turns into two. And that is, from a buying perspective, that's a great option. They've got herd bulls here that we've done a great job focusing on, Amanda, that no one else really has. And they're diverse in their pedigree. So you're going to see a lot of bulls here that a lot of these cows are bred to that a lot of people don't have, which focuses in on, what could be another part of sale day is the new acquisition of Rhodes Dr. Dre, which I think is one of the most exciting bulls to come down the road in a long time. He's got a diverse pedigree from the bottom side, tremendous PAP score, and the combination of performance and his PAP score, raised in big hilly country, bull came off huge. He's just a specimen. He has all the outcross potential that the market desires. He's got end product merit. all these things that I think drive value. We're working on a marketing system for them. We're going to have it in place by sale day. We're excited to present it to the market. And that is, it's going to be very specific to the bull and very specific to the people that have a chance to own a piece of the bull, either through semen or however we determine. But it's going to be an exciting thing for the future. And we're excited to have that as part of what could be just a landmark day from border to border, sea to sea, for a lot of people. So we're excited to get to that point, be a large offering, very excited about how the presentation will be, and can't wait. So.
Great. Well, I'm excited about the sale November 11th. Aaron, can you tell us where folks can follow along for sale updates and details?
Yes. Best source of that would be capitalangus.com. And we'll have our all the bulls listed on that, so they can look at the bulls, look at their pedigrees. As soon as we can get the videos taken, they'll be posted a week or so before the sale. And we're picture days coming up in the near future, and we'll have them all pictured. And so as soon as all that's available, we'll try to have it so we'll have pictures to go with the pedigrees and EPDs. But capitalangus.com is the page to go to.
And that's OL capital. Right. Yes. And folks can also go check out texasbeefhouse.com. Aaron forgot to mention his #1 tool for selling beef, and that's those cute grandkids that go to the farmer's market and sling all the beef for them. So I imagine that kind of helps a little bit.
Yeah, it's a family effort for sure.
Child abuse, making those kids work all the time. That's what people are.
I was going to say, there is one great post. One of the great posts that Tyler ever did is they've got a system here where they've got a cement pad and they feed into it. Well, the cattle push the feed out to where they can't reach through it from the bar. So Tyler's main chores is he drops the kids out there and they all got to shovel it back. So it was a hot day and he's got a little son that was out there. He's all had his shirt off, and people love that post. Here's this kid on a hot day shoveling the feed back in, and he didn't care. I mean, he was loving it. So it was a great post.
Yeah, some folks on social media don't always understand it, but you mentioned it perfectly. Just right. The value of hard work and family and faith, and I think a lot of America's challenges could be solved by families that work together, play together, and pray together. So we will wrap up this episode of the Heart of Rural America with that note, and we'll have all the sale details, the catalog, the videos, everything you need to know about the upcoming beef auction. That's going to be a historic landmark event coming up on November 11th. I'll put that all in the show notes so you can stay up to date on everything going on with Capital Angus. So thanks, Chris. Thanks, Aaron, for being on the show.
Thank you, Amanda.
Thanks, Amanda. You're the best.
We'll see you on the dusty trail.
Yeah.